Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Trap Drop Podcast. This is TC, of course. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Big Randy. Sir, how are
Hello,
you?
I'm great, TC. Good to be back. Yeah, just burning on a few things. This is going to be a good episode. I feel like good
It's gonna
timing of it.
it's gonna be pretty loose, I think. We got a
Yeah,
lot of ground to cover. Beefy mea culpa section. Not all mea culpas though. Yeah, we got some NFL draft react. Wanted to ask you a couple things about your guy Patty over in Belfast. Some of his
Baltimore
baseball
Patty.
takes.
Yeah,
We've kind of been all over the world the last few weeks. Air traffic control, outright disaster, all sorts of stuff going on there. You were at Spice Bush. So yeah, listen, all sorts of stuff to cover. I did want to just a quick note of housekeeping. First of all, let's thank Mr. Jeezy, through whom all things are possible. Thank you, Mr. Jeezy. And
thank you, Mr. Jeezy.
second of all, thank you to all the geologists who reached out. Dozens of you sent over your qualifications, your bona fides. We are currently reviewing those.
We're
Uh,
combing through. Yeah, we're combing through the curriculum vitae as we speak.
We've got a hydrogeologist. I had to ask him what that was. I guess that's how water interacts with rocks,
Of course.
and all sorts of other subsections of geology. So listen, we will report back when it's time to talk about our plans to investigate drilling to the Earth's core and other things about the mantle and
The
we
crust.
got yeah, we got a lot of flack for our lack of knowledge about the mantle and the crust and the differences and
I mean, yeah. Listen, honestly, this is a good refresher for you, TC, because I feel like Freddie and Gustav, I mean, they're heading right into kind of basic earth science. You'll be on top of the game helping them. I don't know. I took one rocks for jocks class in college. Wasn't my favorite subject.
was that the
Just
the
haven't
geology of
retained
US
much.
national parks
No, that
class?
sounds like it would have
Okay.
been
That
way
was
more
that was a sweet
interesting.
one, yeah.
I had to do a lab. I had to fulfill like a lab science.
Was this when you were a jock at Washington and Lee, or was
It
this
was post
was this
jock.
in
It
Miami?
was it was
Okay.
rocks for ex jocks at Miami for me. But I just I don't know. Maybe I should retain more of that. I just haven't.
Freddie told me the other day they're doing the solar system right now at school, which solar system's sick,
I love
you
the
know?
solar system. Yeah, weigh in on that. They're
Yeah,
probably not teaching them Pluto as a planet, though. I do have a bit of
I
a
know.
bone to pick.
Pluto got canceled and it's washed, like both. Actually, Randy, you know what? In Greater Miami news here,
Did it show
so
up?
it showed up. It
Hell
showed
yeah.
up.
They
Red Hawk
rocked them.
50. The second year in a row?
Second year out of two, I might add, that we've been honored by our dear alma mater, Miami, for being one of the 50 fastest growing Miami owned businesses. So that's great. Initially, we thought we hadn't made the cut, but then there was some like last minute. I don't know what all happened. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of that, but we were told we did make the cut, and I'm glad you got the
50th
hardware.
on the number. I love it.
Yeah.
'Cause, back-to-back years, stacking growth on top of growth.
That's
So,
right. If we can go a Mansky style, we're gonna have to send the next one to Solly, I said.
yeah, yeah.
So,
The problem is I think now they have my address, Randy, which
oh yeah. Oh
they're gonna be hitting me up all the time. So let's get into some mea culpas. ServPro, number one brand in cleanup and restoration. Of course, Randy, they're known for making any mess like it never even happened. Sound like they could have helped out with the company that got removed from the Miami fastest growing. So,
Yeah. We don't know who it
cleaned
is.
up a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
They've got over 2,000 locations nationwide. They're faster than any size disaster. Visit servpro.com or call 1-800-SERVPRO today. I hope that people do not have to use ServPro, but when you do, remember this. It's a good resource.
That's
Uh,
right.
Randy, I was up in Pittsburgh this week. A lot of people without power, a lot of trees down, flooding, wind damage, massive
Mm,
storms up there last week. So,
yeah.
um,
Good to be back in the Midwest, though, I bet. Wasn't
yeah,
it?
we'll get there. We'll get there. Randy, I was at the New Zealand airport recently.
TC, I've been so eager to hear your unvarnished thoughts. You got to go down, you're gonna look that horse in the mouth, give it to me straight. what do you think of the New Zealand airport?
Listen, I think, my concerns were overblown. It was good. It was fine, especially the departures hall was great.
Totally,
Security
it's
was
just
fast.
totally fine. Yeah, it's like
Uh, Immigration was fast on the back end, leaving the country. Actually, I got fast lane through on the front end. Listen, I wanna issue a mea culpa. I wanna apologize to you. I think it sounds like they've done a lot of construction down there,
of
and
course.
really so, I was working on outdated knowledge, which is not an excuse. So,
I'm just glad, you and I don't usually see that far apart on things. I was just flabbergasted. I didn't know if my eyes were lying to me when I was in the New Zealand airport earlier this year. It's just totally comfortable and good, and I'm not going to. A lesser man would perhaps demand that the person who called into question my judgment and
a
character,
kiwi, I believe.
yeah, a lesser man would demand a mea culpa from that person. I'm not going to do that. Should you choose to officially apologize, I will take that. I forget what that person's name was, but I'm just glad that you and I feel like we found community, and it makes me feel a lot better about myself, quite honestly.
Love that. They had all sorts of I'll shout out, the lounges were whatever. Their New Zealand lounge was kinda overrun, but uh, they had all sorts of great ethnic cuisines there. Like, they had Chinese, they had
Yeah,
Vietnamese, they had I had
yeah.
a bowl of pho or pho and some spring rolls, like some kinda veggie shrimp rolls that were just fantastic, and, they had a little sushi spot. They had, like, 5 or 6 different varieties of Asian food and then all sorts of other stuff too. I was impressed by the food offerings for sure.
Which I thought that would be right up your alley. That
Yeah, I
just
did not
added
fly
to
out of that
my.
terminal last time. I flew out of a
Okay,
different terminal, so,
okay, all right.
we'll keep it on the food and beverage side here. There's been more discourse around the hot beverage fiasco, lawsuit, kerfuffle, Starbucks getting sued for got a $50 million judgment against them. I think it sounds like there's all sorts of regulations around this, which I don't pretend to understand or know. But I think where I can find common ground with some of the esteemed commenters and DMers that have brought this up, that are many of whom are in the food and beverage industry. I think we need to have a national conversation about drink holders and drink carriers because it sounds
Okay.
like they're just really flimsy and they've gone downhill the last decade or so.
Now, when you say beverage carrier, the one I'm picturing is kind of that bumpy cardboard
See, I think that's good.
square.
I think that's the good one that we've gone away
Right.
from, and I think the kind of the really flimsy
The
lunch
handled
pail
one.
style one, yeah, yeah, or I think there's some other really just flimsier stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well,
um,
listen, maybe that's where the trap draw can really push for public change. Is we got to get tight. We got to get better with the beverage carriers. I think that benefits everybody. TC.
I love that. Randy, I messed up the snow totals out in Colorado. I wanna
Hmm.
apologize to all the season pass holders out at Winter Park.
Those would
Like,
be
we're
on the icon pass.
they, I guess they had the highest snow totals in Colorado, which I think I mistakenly said Copper and a couple other places. So, deepest apologies to them. They really let me
Did they
have
get
it.
upset with you? Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. I feel like there's a little bit of an inferiority complex up at Winter Park.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
Wh-
strange little enclave up there.
Which I might make them more upset, but Winter Park totally fine. It's never like where I'm itching to go to though.
Yeah. Uh, Listen, I do wanna take the kids. They've got that train that goes up there, the snow
Yeah.
train. I do wanna take the kids on that at some point.
Okay.
They would get a kick out of that. I would get a kick out of that. I shortchanged the Jags 2020 draft. It's just a disastrous draft. Um, DMer said, obviously this was a masterclass in incompetency. He mentioned none of the players are still with the team 5 years later. 0 for 12 picks. It turns out there's one player still left, Devon Hamilton, still with the team. He's had a kind of a bizarre career, some weird injuries and leaves of absence and stuff, and just inconsistent play. So, hats off to Trent Baalke. He went 1 of 12 instead of 0 of 12 in that draft.
Oh god,
So,
that's bad. Not good. Not
uh,
good.
Randy, I got Pittsburgh. I don't think it's in the Midwest.
Wow.
I spent some time there this week. I had a lot of conversations. I was very vulnerable. I said, "Hey, I wanna hear from you people. You live here." First of all, I flew in, interesting airport. They're doing all sorts of construction. They're kind of, they used to be a big US air hub. One of the biggest airports in the country, I think, is US air hub, and they've kinda just downsized and downsized and downsized. And so now they're kinda right sizing the airport, bringing it up to modern standards, all of that, but you can tell it used to just be kinda like Cincinnati was for a little bit there, right? Where it was just, you know,
Yeah.
B and C were kinda, like, vacant, basically. Um, so I wanna shout that out, but it was, people were vehement. They said, "This is." First of all, it's clear it's not the Northeast. Like, it's far more the Midwest than it is the Northeast,
Okay.
but it felt more Appalachia. For sure. And I think it might beg the question, is Cincinnati even in Midwest?
I and what's Cincinnati? Is that Appalachia? Because that's not
Cincinnati, like, I felt like I was in Cincinnati at various points during especially on the east side of Cincinnati. I felt like I was in Cincinnati in various points over the last couple days. It was uncanny. The traffic was awful. Feels like it's just choke point central. Just you know, you gotta go over a bridge here, you gotta go over a bridge there, you gotta
to get
backtrack.
into the city, or was this
Yeah.
just even out in the suburbs
Even
too?
getting out to Oakmont and some of the other places. So, ate at some great restaurants. We ate this place, Noodle Head, great Thai food, outstanding Thai food, and then had a great Italian meal last night, as one does in Pittsburgh. Um, it was Skeens Day yesterday. I think the Pirates were out of town though. Talked to a lot of people about Pirates ownership, all of that. But all that to say, a lot of people were just bristling when I said Midwest. Which, if they don't wanna be glossed that, who who are we to gloss them that, Randy?
Well, that's fine. That I whatever Cincinnati is, to your point, I feel like Pittsburgh has to be because they are very similar cities. And so maybe the Midwest is too broad because are they thinking of like, you know, Indiana, Minnesota, Illinois,
Yeah.
like I don't know, TC. We're gonna have to think on this a little bit.
It's not Rust Belt either. It didn't feel Rust Belty. It didn't feel like Cleveland or Detroity.
I mean,
Um,
where do you think Columbus slots in there?
Columbus feels Midwest, like farm
Okay.
country as fuck. Like, Pittsburgh's got a weird thing going where it feels like, I don't know, back in the late 17, early 1800s, it was like the gateway to the West, right? Like, that was like the Western frontier.
Well, just incrementally. So
Yeah.
at a time, because Cincinnati likes to celebrate, they were kind of the
Yeah,
westernmost at
and
one
then
point
St.
too,
Louis and
and then
yeah, and
St.
Kansas
Louis still at
City.
large,
Yeah.
of course. Maybe it's like all elevated Appalachian, and maybe you can throw Cincinnati. I'm trying to think like what other big cities even fit there. I admittedly I've
Mm,
not spent any time in Charleston,
Knoxville,
West
maybe?
Virginia,
Charleston,
Knoxville.
Roanoke,
Yeah.
possibly. Yeah, I think Richmond feels Mid-Atlantic. It's certainly not Mid-Atlantic either, which I don't even think
No.
the Mid-Atlantic is like that's not even a region. I'm just generally out on the Mid-Atlantic.
I I haven't spent much time in Richmond either, but I would think that's got a southern feel to it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway,
okay.
I don't wanna dredge
We don't
up,
have to get bogged down. Yeah.
but I did
It's
wanna just apologize to the people who were. Went out to Bob O'Connor Golf Course, played a little 9-hole session out there. Great people, great facility, great
I just
caddy
don't want the
program,
Northeast
and
people
people
claiming
were
victory.
people were offended And they said, "No, we're not." Like, everybody was so nice that there's no way they're in the Northeast either.
Right.
So, you know,
Okay. All right.
take that as you will. Randy, this isn't a mea culpa, but this guy reached out. I think it's actually he needs to mea culpa. This is from Nyland Raper. Um, that's his real name. I
That's
fact checked.
that's off of X, the everything app.
No, I looked on LinkedIn and a few other places. His name is Nyland Raper. I think he does have
Okay. I wonder if
deep,
he's I wonder if
you
he's
know.
related to Tom Raper, the RV guy around the Midwest. No, the guy's got the biggest RV operation. Tom Raper. Did you get those commercials?
I remember those from college.
Yeah. It's
Um,
tough, man.
See, Nyland says Randy needs to stick to Reds baseball instead of conference power rankings. I work at the Big 12 and previously worked in the SEC for the last decade. I'm happy to chop it up with both on why he should be bullish on the Big 12. Like, why? Because you have a marketing centric commissioner who's just plucked the scraps from Pac-12 and the
What are
American
you bullish,
Conference.
TC? Which
No, fuck no.
yeah. I yeah, I mean, who knows what's gonna happen. I just don't see the Big 12 being a lasting entity. I could see the Big 12 teams or most of them being folded up into whatever comes next, but I
Yeah.
don't think the Big 12 is moving the needle,
I would imagine he would throw a bunch of demographic and
of
statistical
course.
stuff at us and
Yeah.
all of that. So, yeah, cool. Like UCF, go Knights, right?
And weirdly, the football, I mean, the football's kind of trash.
Yeah, it is.
And basketball, they're now very much a basketball conference.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of football led. I don't know. I'm just not seeing, the demographics will help with the Texas teams, but yeah, nobody really needs the Big
Like
12.
USF is building a new stadium and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, and then Randy, listeners were all over the map with regard to USTA levels for tennis.
I know this TC. This created a lot of conversation. I took this to a couple of tennis buddies here in Denver, and I posed the question to them. And my one friend Keith, I think, really was chopping the numbers, and he came to a conclusion where I may need to issue a mea culpa. His
Wow.
final conclusion was 3.5 would equate to like an 11 to 16 handicap range in golf. Um,
And you said 8 to 12,
I
correct?
said like 8 to 12. Yeah. It's just
I
it's
feel like you're
it
better. Yeah, I feel like you're better than like an 11 to 16 in tennis.
I know. But tennis is a little weird too because like an 11 and a 14 handicap in golf on any given day, like the 14 could absolutely beat the 11. Whereas very rarely from a 3.5 to a 4 in tennis, like is that 3.5? Like you're just encompassing a much broader range, even though you kind of have less, um,
Volatility.
yeah, and like less places to like
Less like
put people.
variance between, yeah,
Yeah.
between
So
floor and ceiling.
I'll defer. I'll issue a slight correction, mea culpa.
Okay.
It's probably around a 10 to let's call it 15 handicap
Okay.
level.
Any other mea culpas? Anything else we want to get out there?
We'll have some on the next Seamsters, but I'll keep some baseball specific ones to there. I'm trying to think back on any chop sessions if I've gotten heat or flack. Nothing jumps to mind, TC. I feel like this pretty much covers it.
Okay. Yeah, we were at dinner last night and Sasha was just crushing Solly. He was saying, Ellie, what's the difference between O'Neill Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz?
Mm.
Other
See,
than, you know,
Pittsburgh people love that argument. I would say O'Neill Cruz is not as good in like every facet. I
uh,
I bet that got Solly pretty fired up.
and then Solly, I think he's getting ready to announce that he's gonna make a public he's gonna lead a public campaign to get Andrew Jones into the Hall of Fame. He wants to put his name on that.
Has he been eligible yet?
I think he has.
Because that is a Andrew Jones, I feel like should be a Hall
And
of
he got
Famer.
shortchanged because all the defensive metrics kinda came out afterwards,
Yeah,
and he was so good.
so good. Nobody played a more shallow center field either. God, he was frustrating to play against. He would just go get it.
Yeah.
I'll sign on to that. Cosign.
Okay,
I think
okay.
Andrew Jones, I do think he's a Hall of Famer.
Well, thank you for that. Well, and really
Yeah.
thank you to ServPro. We're still in the first, the opening section of this podcast here. 20 minutes in, and ServPro, appreciate the support this year. Randy, you'll have Christopher Clary on next week for the Rafa Nadal biography that he's been working
Y
on.
yeah, that's right. I talked to Christopher a couple years ago about his Roger Federer biography, which I found was fantastic. The Rafa Nadal biography comes out May 13th, and so I'm gonna chat with Christopher about writing the book about Rafa, and we'll probably touch on a little bit of tennis as we get ready for the French Open here at the end of the month, TC. I'm excited for that one.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit more sports. Wanted to get your reaction on your Bengals draft first and foremost.
I didn't love it, TC. So the Shamar Stewart pick was God, I just had a pit in my stomach that this was where the Bengals were always going to end up. He is the epitome of traits, not as much production to match the traits. The stat that everybody cites is what 1.5 sacks, I think, in 3 years.
And some of the data
Um,
boys say, he got more pressures than that or whatever. But
he
as
he
Nate Tice said on this here program a few weeks ago, I just don't know if he's very good at football.
and listen, I don't necessarily trust the Bengals. They haven't had a great track record coaching up prospects on the defensive side of the ball. So it was a bit frustrating for them to take a real boom bust potential pick, given the window that they're in with, paying a lot of money on the offensive side of the ball. But I think that the Bengals were thinking, they need some leverage in the Trey Hendrickson discussions. I don't know, TC. I do think it's a coin flip, and if anybody tells you definitively they know what Shamar Stewart's going to do, I would think they're lying to you. I talked to our good friend ball knower Bob Sturm. Bob likes Stewart. He would bet on the traits. So
Okay.
listen, I'm choosing to be optimistic, even though in the moment I was hoping for well, I really wanted Jihad Campbell, who ended up going to the Eagles.
Jihad Campbell, not just Jihad.
Yeah. So I don't know, TC. I just, we're going to have to wait and see here. The rest of the draft, I think they reached a little for the linebacker in the second round, but I
Demetrius
like his
Knight
makeup.
2.0.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a day one starter. And then, listen, they got some perhaps decent value guard out of Georgia in the third round. Sounds like he might have a chance to start right away. Clemson linebacker, good depth piece. I do like this Taj Brooks, the running back from Texas Tech. Put up good numbers, just a workhorse. I feel like that's a great pairing in the
5'9",
backfield.
215.
Just a little
Absolute
bowling
bull.
ball. Yeah, just a little
Yeah.
bowling ball. Played a ton, was playing a ton out of the shotgun at Texas Tech. So will be, pretty comfortable in that system in Cincinnati. I listen, not a sexy draft, I don't think. Everything's going to come down to Stewart and probably this Demetrius Knight, the linebacker. They need those guys to be
Yeah.
productive players for this to be a success. TC, we're just gonna have to wait till they're playing real ball.
That's fair. That's fair. Rainey, I'm not gonna wait till they're playing real ball to declare the Jags draft just a massive, massive success.
All right, walk
Uh,
me through this because they gave up a lot. What's the bullish case here?
the bullish case. So they gave up, first? Obviously, this year's first. This year's, it was
It was the
next year's first,
Browns.
obviously, and then
I think there was a second or third in addition this year.
yeah. Listen, they had a ton of picks this year. I like the draft that they came up with this year outside of Hunter even, and then I like the kid from West Virginia, Wyatt Millum, the the guard. Essentially, like, we've gone the route of, like, going back to that 2020 draft we were talking about. We've gone the route of, all right, just stockpiling picks. And if you're just doing lottery, just scratch off tickets in the middle of the first round, it's kind of a, you know, like,
which is what the Bengals did this year, it feels like.
yeah, like they kind of like, I would rather just, all right, you feel really like, go get your guy. You feel really, really sure about it. Somebody, I've seen comps to like both the Diggs brothers, like Stephon and Trayvon. Like that's a pretty sick,
Yeah.
kind of, all right. Like it sounds like they're gonna play him on offense mostly to start out with, and then ease him into defense. I thought it would be the other way around. But opposite Brian Thomas, like that's awesome. His ball skills are sick. Like Solly hated it. He said, they gave up too much. They're going against the Jimmy Johnson thing and all that. But man, I don't know. They're trying to like change the culture, and I cannot tell you how excited my kids are, how excited everybody around town is. Like, I feel like we needed a jolt, right? We needed something beyond just the football to kind of get everybody excited and flip over that locker room and just change the dynamic around here.
I
So,
100,000% agree with that. I think that's a real thing, and I commend them. Like you said, if they like a guy and they know it's going to play with the fan base, go get your guy. I really like that. I'm just curious how the offense and defense is going to play out in the long run,
yeah.
and whether he carries enough value if he's just doing one side of the ball, which he certainly could.
Yeah, I think we could
Who
be
knows?
looking at like generational talent at receiver. I think he's still pretty raw as far as running routes and stuff, but I think opposite Brian Thomas, it's great, and then he's opposite Tyson Campbell on the other side of the ball.
Yeah,
But you got to remember, like Gladstone, the GM, is coming from the Rams. They've got 2 additional third rounders next year as well from the Vikings. So, I think it's just all about, like, picks inside the top 100, right?
yeah.
And I don't think
Yeah.
there's as big of a fall off between, like, 20 and 50 as people would lead you to believe. So, I would rather get a
Year's
jump
draft
start on this
wasn't the
thing.
best draft either,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he feels like he could be a true difference maker.
I think it gets into how I feel like he's almost bust proof unless he just gets hurt, which that happens, but, like, if he doesn't pan out at receiver, I think he's like certain to be a good corner. Yeah, like it's like to me, like doing this versus drafting Mason Graham or Pat McMillan or something like that. And then I don't know, I felt like Gladstone summed it up well. Travis Hunter is a Jacksonville Jaguar. He is a rare person and a rare player, but he's also a reminder that the boundaries of the game of football were meant to be or built to be challenged. So the decision to select him was actually a statement on how we plan to move, who we are, and we want him to be nothing more than him, Gladstone stated. And then your guy Florio was shitting all over Gladstone. Florio said there was some over the top stuff. Travis Hunter, this grandiose stuff that they're trying to basically revolutionize the sport itself. And also, I mean, it also seems like he's an AI generated GM, if that makes any sense. It's all too perfect. It all comes out too perfectly. It's like someone programmed a chat bot to pull things out and slap them together. I know some of the established GMs are like, "What's this dude's problem?" Florio shared. Which, listen, if Florio hates it, I'm all in.
It's gonna be entertaining, and I think it's a great thing for that reason alone. I can't wait as we get into everything to see how it goes, because, of course, Gladstone's leaving himself open to a lot of easy criticism should stuff not work out, but I respect having a vision and taking swings, and
Yeah.
listen, man, you don't know how many chances you're gonna be to be an NFL GM, like, do it the way you want to, do it your way. So I do legitimately have a lot of respect for that.
The
I just
Michael
don't know
Silver
which
piece
direction it's gonna go in.
the Michael Silver piece in The Athletic was good. I did have some concerns about him just throwing the football all over the facility, and he's young, right? That's kind of
Of
the thing, but he
course.
seems energetic. I think his tenure is gonna be determined on those second, third, fourth, fifth rounders, which Balky
Yeah.
never seemed to hit on. So the Falcons, I'm really glad I renounced them. Just disaster of a trade with potential malcontent up there. The kid, Pierce, the kid from Tennessee, sounded like everybody up there hated him.
Speaking of, like, didn't feel like it was the best draft to trade a first rounder to jump back into this draft just wasn't, especially because it seemed like it broke perfectly with, oh god, I'm blanking. Who's the kid from Georgia that ended up falling to him?
Oh, Jalen Walker,
Jalen, yeah, like,
or
man,
yeah,
what a great set of circumstances to get him
yeah.
at 15 and then
I will
kinda
say
undid it.
I liked the I liked the Falcons that Xavier Watts. They had two safeties. They had Xavier Watts, the kid from Notre Dame. I
Yeah.
love watching him play football. I think he's a stud. And,
A lot of people thought the Bengals might go that direction with Al Golden on staff now.
yeah. And then yeah, of course we had the, defensive coordinator's son being a complete shithead and it's a prank call and all that stuff. I mean, the Falcons have, they had the Calvin Ridley gambling suspension. They got fined a bunch of money for piping and fake crowd noise. They got fined a bunch of money for injury report violations, tampering with Kirk Cousins last year, plus that whole fiasco, the draft
Yeah.
last year. Now this, like Arthur Blank at some point, like this guy's like leading the PGA Tour's CEO search. He's like put forth as one of the preeminent owners in all of sports. Like he needs to clean up his own house. It's a
Yeah.
disgrace.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree. And yet, if your guy Mike Penix starts playing some ball, I feel like they're gonna be one of the more fun teams.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, we'll forget about all that.
Yeah.
The prank on Shador, listen, a little cruel, but there's a part of me is like, I think it turned cruel because of how far Shador fell. But I do think it's
If it would
I
have been
should,
like early second round,
yeah.
I
No,
mean, I
it
think
does
it
suck.
sucks.
It does suck.
I don't like
It,
Shadur, but you know,
yeah.
like there's some humanity in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's where I net out. Not the time, not the place. I feel like the Sanders family got a whole heaping of karma though over draft
I
weekend.
love
Just
that. There
a
was a
ton of
meme going
karma.
around of
Yeah.
like it was a picture of Osama bin Laden. It's like, this must have been Shadur in his pre-draft interviews. It sounded like the Giants tried to trick him on on like a scheme thing or like a playbook install thing, and he like didn't catch up on it, and then which like basically belied that he didn't really study for it. And then
Yeah.
they called him on it, and he got all pissed at him, like threw it back in their face. So, did you think Steve Smith is getting sued under the home wrecker law?
I did. Yeah. That I don't know. It seems like there's some smoke there, or maybe some fire
I
where
think
there
there's
is
some
smoke.
fire there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, some very incriminating text and stuff like that. Speaking of Charlotte, I got to go there next week. PGA. Randy, I think the people of Charlotte should just apologize. Even
Just
like
in
in
general,
advance, just in
blanket.
general. A
Yeah.
couple people have reached out to me like, "Hey, any restaurant recommendations in Charlotte?" No, I don't have any. I've never had a good meal in Charlotte. Like I don't think there's a good like non-chain restaurant there. It's the most vanilla, bland place in you got the fake Queen City moniker, all that
I mean,
stuff.
that pisses me off.
Yeah,
God, it's such a popular city though. There's
I know, but there's just nothing. There's just nothing going on. It's a bunch of like mid-level junior bankers, right?
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm putting Charlotte on notice. Like you better show out next week for me. Otherwise,
Yeah, like, what is the culture of Charlotte? That's a
yeah,
great, yeah, you're right.
like NASCAR.
It's just like diet Atlanta, probably.
Yeah,
Well, hey,
yeah,
you went to Pittsburgh with an open mind. You did some
yeah. I
boots on the
loved
ground
Pittsburgh.
reporting.
I'll go back to Pittsburgh anytime.
If you feel the urge to do the same in Charlotte, we're all ears, TC.
Like Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, Kansas City, Cleveland.
Just salt of the earth
Providence.
places.
Sign me up for that size city, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah. Nice mid-sized city.
What else we got? NHL, NBA, you been watching much or
Well, was on a trip across the pond, so I didn't watch much last week, but NBA playoffs are really good right now. So I'm
yeah,
excited to really dive into that in earnest. Be rooting for the Nuggies. God, what a comeback they had in game 1 against OKC. The
that would be
Pacers, TC, are
Dick
up
Cheney
2-0. Yeah, Halliburton
and his
on the
dad.
Cavs. So yeah, I'm into the NBA. Haven't followed the NHL at all. That's on me. Just can't get into it if I don't. I'm a bit of a Red Wings fan. They didn't make the playoffs. We'll probably watch the Stanley Cup Finals when it gets there, but I don't know if I'll spend much time in the playoffs
I
before then.
flipped on the Stars game, what, Saturday night? Friday or Saturday night? That was really good. They came back. I've been dabbling, watched a little bit of that, couple of the Eastern Conference series, but overall, been watching more NBA. I saw the Bucks just shit down their leg against the Pacers.
Yeah,
That was special.
man,
So,
I'm bummed. I feel like Giannis might be on his way out of Milwaukee, and I just hate that for the
where do you think
fine
he's
folks of
going?
Milwaukee.
Houston?
Houston
Seems
would
like
make the most
they're the
sense.
ones that have
They got
the
a
chips,
ton of
right?
trade chips. Yeah. I don't know, maybe the Spurs probably don't have as much as the Rockets do. I mean, OKC, if they wanted him, could have
Yeah,
him, but I'm just not sure if they'll be that motivated. But yeah, I
yeah,
just, I think he was very good to the people of Milwaukee, and maybe he'll stay. I hope he stays, but gosh, you're just not getting a player like that coming through a market like that anytime soon, I don't think.
yeah. I'm curious to see what Cleveland does in these playoffs too. Their back could be
No,
up against the wall here
I
pretty
know.
quickly after a really good season. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens there. And then I guess Curry's out for the next week.
I just saw that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's big. Don't love that.
Jimmy's gonna
So,
have to do work. So
yeah. I do think
uh,
this Nuggets Thunder series though could be an all-timer.
yeah.
Man, that first game was fabulous.
And then lastly, just on the sports front, our guy Bob Baffert is back. I think
I
you know.
totally missed the Derby. Did his horse win? I mean, I know Bob
No,
was back and we're
I
all
don't know.
better for it.
My parents were in town. I kind of watched out of the corner of my eye. We were cooking out, and
Yeah.
man, it was a muddy one. Kind of reminded me of the year that I went with the commish in THG, which I was bummed that you guys in Strap didn't put a credit to the commish in
Down in
the
Lubbock.
end in the end credits. That could have been really classy of
An
you.
olive branch.
Yeah,
Well, we mentioned him. He must
yeah,
not have gotten a good final edit, but you're right that something in the end credits would have been nice.
yeah. Just in loving memory or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly. I wish we could have found the off-campus place where he lived in Lubbock, where that he said that person played the polka music above him all the time.
oh man. Randy, let's thank Stone Creek. Big week of travel. Big week of travel. We're all back in the States. Normally don't get hit with the jet lag too bad, but I got stuck in Houston on my way back from New Zealand and had to spend the night there. And it just threw off my entire reacclimation plan. So I've been deep into the Stone Creek here. But also they've got their Keurig. They got their little, like not Keurig, but their escape pods, which are like a pod, but good coffee instead of just kind of that dry afterthoughty stuff.
Yeah,
It's actual roaster, real standards, real beans. These pods are nothing like you've had before. First off, they magically get 70% more coffee into each pod, which how about that? It's not a typo. 70%. It's like your driver started going 70% farther with no swing change, which Randy, based on your golf game, it sounds like you're kind of
yeah,
bumping up against that at this point. Um,
exactly.
yeah. Drew says it's the best cup of coffee you've ever had from a pod. He guarantees it. Real deal coffee in a format that fits your broken life is truly a craft coffee fast. I think Drew's been getting absolutely crushed by
Yeah,
uh,
our guys going through it with the tariffs and the coffee prices. It's
commodity prices are just out of control.
Yeah.
He also wants to shout out they're commercially compostable. So if you, like Randy, have been side-eyeing your landfill contributions every morning while listening to Ezra Klein talk about climate change, congrats. You're no longer a part of the problem. Even if you don't make sure these get into a commercial composting facility, they will break down in a landfill. Something you can't say about the classic K cups.
which is massive. I love that. And I think just to re-shout out the certified B Corp
Yeah,
status, good on
amen.
them. Yeah. Uh,
So while you may be committed to the pod life, here's what we're asking you to do: take back your ritual, take back your morning, take back your pride, Randy. All right? Your mornings deserve better than sad plastic capsules and the faint taste of regret. Escape the week, reclaim your brew. StoneCreekCoffee.com/slash no laying up. You can get all the NLU themed whole bean coffees there. You can get all sorts of different accoutrements for your mornings over there. StoneCreekCoffee.com/slash no laying up and NLU 2025 for 15% off. And that includes the escape pods. So
what a deal. What a deal. And if you're an office administrator, treat the
yeah,
office to a nicer coffee.
amen. Amen.
Everybody will appreciate it.
Randy, what are you brewing up down at Spice Bush?
God, TC, it was great to be back in Spice Bush. I will say that.
Any big
We
changes?
massive. You know what the talk of the community was after, what would it be? Nearly 40 years of having the same dining room table. Mine was like one of the test units for a new table and chairs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so everybody was asking me how I liked it, how I thought it looked. It was truly the talk of Spice Bush. I can report totally good, totally fine. Everything else looked the same. There was some comfort in the familiarity of everything. My wife Kat had never been to that part of the country. I think she really liked it. She was quite charmed by the bike paths and the ability to ride our bikes, to go grab a bite to eat. Or we honestly spent a ton of time just sitting out on the beach. It was really nice. My parents spoiled us. There's a beach club not too far away, and they run a service which is very smart. It's kind of like a ski valet, but they'll like set up a couple chairs and an umbrella for you each day,
Heck
and
yeah.
they'll
That's
tear it down. And so yeah, we just we kind of have lazy mornings, and then after lunch we just go hang out at the beach for several hours. But I think the biggest changes in Sea Pines in Harbor Town, I had not gotten eyes. I forget the exact hurricane, but a few years ago, a hurricane kind of came through and did real damage. There's like a pier up by the lighthouse, like in
mhm.
Harbor Town. Anyway, they've rebuilt that whole area, and kind of the crown jewel of it, a restaurant facility called the Quarter Deck, which is really pretty. Sits right at the base of the lighthouse. Indoor, outdoor dining, good menu, seafood as you can imagine. I was impressed with that. And then out near us, another kind of new build, this beach club place. They've built a big clubhouse with like outdoor bar, some nice dining options. So just I think sprucing up some places that had gotten a little tired.
Still familiar, just a little bit more energy and new coat
Yeah,
of paint. Yeah.
that's exactly right. But it's still, I mean, still ton of families, ton of Midwest families. It's like the family vacation spot. Good Bar and I, my brother-in-law, we played the Atlantic Dunes golf course. That was the only round that I played.
Okay.
Tell you what, course was in fantastic condition. I think it's not worth what they charge people, because I don't know if any golf course is worth what they're charging, like 300, maybe a little over $300. But it's a very, very nice golf course, excellent conditioning. Beat Good Bar's ass 6-5.
Wow.
So that was one of the highlights of the trip for me.
How did Arthur do? You guys boarded
Arthur
him, right?
was Yeah, we left Arthur behind. We were so nervous because this was the first time we had boarded him. And when we went there, we loved that reaction when he sees us after not seeing us for 8 days. He was going crazy, but the people said he couldn't have been better. He was a perfect gentleman.
Oh,
He got he
loved
got
hearing that.
flying report, flying scores from the boarding people. So a weight off our shoulder. We can take him back. My wife literally the whole vacation was like, because I didn't realize. I'll shout out the place. It's called Houndstown here in Denver. We kept waiting for like, oh, are they going to send us a little picture? Are they going to give us a little update? And they didn't. But it was more on us. I think I just dropped the ball. If you follow them on Instagram, they post like pictures of every dog every day. So we could have been kind of getting updates that way. But my wife was literally every morning she'd ask me, should I call him today? Should I? And I'm like, no, don't call him. If something's like really going wrong, they will call us. Like it's fine. But we were laughing. We truly felt like parents for the first time. But he was good. He was good.
Awesome. What,
Yeah.
and then you went to Belfast.
Yeah, we did a video project in Belfast. People will see that closer to the Open Championship this summer. First time in Belfast, TC, fascinating city.
Yeah.
We kind of get into the history. Obviously, the Troubles is the first thing on everybody's, well, I guess, tourist mind. It's what I associate with Belfast. We did a cool taxi tour, but the Protestant and the Catholic sections of town. I guess my big takeaway, and I don't think this will spoil anything, but I had no idea, Tron, that the gates which separate these communities are still locked every night. Like it's still not a place that's just completely open. And I guess for whatever reason, here in the year 2025, like I always just thought of all of this as being in the past, but there's very much still an aspect to it in the present, which
Mhm.
was good to be reminded of because I did not have appreciation for that.
I read, actually, you lent it to me. I think it's still up on my bookshelf. I read it a few years ago. Say Nothing.
Yeah, good book.
Yeah, that was kinda my most eye-opening, portrayal of the whole, of
Yeah.
the Troubles and all, kind of the backstory and yeah, just yeah, really I've never been to Belfast, never been to Northern Ireland, just been to Ireland that one time, generally, like, the island, so,
Yeah.
kind of fascinated to never even been to Dublin either, so it's kinda like, I just need to, like, explore that island more,
Hmm.
both North and Republic, so
Part of it reminded me of being at home in Marymount, with
with the
that's a joke.
Catholics and the Protestants.
Yeah. Um, no,
Which,
what was
I
I gonna
mean,
say?
like, what was the year alright, Marymount, because when my grandparents moved out of their house on the west side of Cincinnati into, like, a retirement home, uh, you know,
Yeah,
more on the east side, I remember
yeah.
my grandma was like, "Yeah, like, it's just not as Catholic over here, it's
No,
not
not at
as."
all.
And then I remember when they would come up to visit, and I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, this is my friend Phil." I was like, "He grew up in Marymount." I remember my grandma
Oh,
said something to me one time of like, "Yeah, they really don't like Catholics in Marymount." Like
yeah.
like, what year was that a thing until?
Well, Marymount was founded in 1923. I'm just quickly looking it up, and the Wikipedia page says, quote, like other planned communities founded before 1960, Marymount was originally an exclusively white community. It's not great. It's not good. And so just beyond race, yeah, they're just Catholic wasn't really a very Protestant community. TC, I think there for a while.
Probably Jewish, other races, all sorts, not just Catholics, right?
Not just Catholics. That's right. I think it's very waspy is what, and still is, to be fair. I mean, very waspy. But yeah, that's where I grew up. I was gonna no. Here's what I was gonna say: the Say Nothing book by Patrick Radden Keith. One, he's written a lot of excellent books, but I read the Empire of Pain about the Sackler family. That's great.
Oh,
But they turned Say Nothing into a mini series, which I believe is on Hulu. So if anybody wants to, I would recommend the book, but if you want to check out the mini series, that's on Hulu. It is Very interesting. But as they were telling us in Belfast, the Easter Accord, the big peace agreement, I believe was in 1998. And it was like Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, I think Nelson Mandela was involved. And they said at the time, all these walls, the goal will be to have all the walls down in 25 years. Well, we're in year 27. And as our tour guide told us, like, there are no plans to bring these walls down. And then we're talking like 40-foot high walls that separate these Catholic and Protestant parts of town. It's wild.
Any conversations around like Brexit and all of that? How are they managing through that?
Yeah,
That's a big border thing, right?
I know, and I guess it's like they've just kind of fudged it because I was curious about that too, because we flew into Dublin, so we were then driving up into Northern Ireland. I didn't know if there
Mhm.
would be a real border crossing, a checkpoint, but there's not. You just there honestly, there wasn't even like that big of a sign on the motorway. It was just like welcome to Northern Ireland sign. And talking to some people, I guess, that was one of the big questions of Brexit was like, hey, Northern Ireland, if they're not going to be part of the EU any longer, like we're going to have to establish a border, right, with
Yeah.
Europe, with Ireland. But it sounds like they just just kind of like haven't done it. I think everybody's just like, yeah, let's just not do that. It'll make life easier. But I
Huh.
was very curious about the same things. And I'll say
Uh,
Northern Ireland, first time there for me, it felt more like the little towns even, it just felt a little bit more like Scottish than Irish to me, if that makes sense. Like I think it blends the look and feel of a lot of Scottish towns, but with more of the personality, like just maybe a little warmer, outgoing personalities, more like Irish influence that way. So
okay.
it's kind of a cool blend of of some different areas.
Okay. So getting to and from big news in your neck of the woods, Denver. Lufthansa's flying the A380 in there. No,
I
just
didn't
started
know that.
last week. Yeah, through the summer.
Who's got Lufthansa in their alliance?
Star
Is
Alliance, United.
Oh, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
check that out because I ended
yeah.
up TC. I flew Delta. I actually went
I
up through
saw that. I'm
Minneapolis
really disappointed in you.
and then Minneapolis each way. I have
Did you go
learned that
Minneapolis to Dublin? They have a
yeah, Minneapolis
okay,
to
that's an
Dublin.
interesting route.
Um, Shout out to the bookstore in the Minneapolis airport, like in the main stretch of the Minneapolis airport. Probably the best airport bookstore I've encountered. No, Delta, shame on me, but we flew Delta also to Hilton Head, where we went Denver, Atlanta, Atlanta to Hilton
Oh,
Head.
yeah, how was the small airport?
It was totally fine. Like nothing to report. But Delta's just flying a ton of shitbox 737s and even A320s, like just old ass planes on these Delta routes out of Denver. I did not love that, TC.
It's bad. It's bad,
Yeah.
Randy.
So I look
Um,
forward to jumping back on United for my future travels.
yeah, I'm disappointed. I thought you were going all in.
I had a credit that was going to
Okay.
expire this summer for Delta. So it took like $800 from I forget,
Mhm.
prior work trip. So I got a nice discount on the Dublin fare.
Okay. What else we got? We took Julius Peppers up to Atlanta with us. We went to
How did
Atlanta
he do
for
in the car, or
he
did
was
you
good in the
fly?
car on the way, and then
Okay.
I flew from Atlanta. Neil and I flew from Atlanta to San Francisco, and I guess he puked on the way home in the car. Like
Of
he got
course.
car sick.
I'm sure Alex was just like, "Of course."
Yeah, but no, he had a blast at my parents' place. Just made himself right at home, like
Yeah.
just like went right in my dad's chair, like wouldn't let him sit down, and him and my dad's just like a love fest. So
Yeah.
no, that was great. And then yeah, actually, Randy flew a Delta, flew a wide body out to San Francisco, 767. Great flight out there. And then want to shout out United. Neil and I got to our gate in San Francisco for the direct on to Auckland. They had to take our plane out of service about 45 minutes before departure time. So we're like, oh shit. Like, and there was no, I don't think there was a flight the next day either. So it was a little bit of a, "Oh, shit, like, are we gonna miss the first 2 days of our New Zealand trip?" We
Yeah.
ended up taking one from another flight and just rearranging stuff and being nimble, so very, very thankful for that. It was only like an hour, 20-minute delay, which, operational excellence, right? Uh,
Truly, thank you
yeah,
very much.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then way back was tough. Neil flew him back. We were on Air New Zealand, also a Star Alliance partner, but they lease these 777s from Cathay Pacific, and they've
Yeah.
got these 6, like, first class suites up front that they don't really charge any more for. You just gotta, like, snag them, and it's maybe 2 or 300 bucks. I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that," and I was in 1K. I had, like, this full on just palatial little room to myself. And Neil was in the I think it was a 4 wide middle seat in row 40 in the
Oh,
back. I felt terrible for him because he was
God,
like, he was trying
that's
to get
such
an
a long
upgrade, and
flight too.
he just
Yeah.
booked, like, the wrong fare class. But he got onward to, and, like, man, Air New Zealand, fantastic soft product. The
Yes.
the,
Yes.
flight attendants, the food, the wine, all of that was fantastic.
I hope
So,
you were paying attention to the video, the safety video at the
I
beginning.
was.
That was my only, I got chastised by the lady for that.
They did the same thing. They were like, "Hey, pay attention." Like, it was very much a, and then
And was it the Steven Adams
I think
video?
I think the
Yeah.
captain as well, it was like, "Do me a favor and pay attention to the," when he said that, like, it was a really bumpy flight too. We were a little bit
Okay.
delayed coming out of Auckland, and
Yeah.
the entire way, it was just bumpy, like, just
Okay.
turbulence the whole way. So,
God, poor Neil back there, back of the bus feeling every
yeah.
bump.
I watched Conclave.
Yeah, what'd you
Uh,
think?
I liked it. I was expecting the ending to be a lot worse. Like, you guys had kind of built it up into being,
Yeah. It just
you
is,
know
seemed a bit I don't know, it just seemed a little much
it's a
for
little
my like, I
forced,
don't
or
think it
yeah,
yeah, it just wasn't my favorite ending, but I don't think it took away from, like, that movie is great. Like,
yeah, yeah.
really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, I think I was expecting maybe even more of a twist or a curveball than, like,
That's
or
fair.
how
Yeah,
like, how
maybe,
it had
like,
been
you
built
had more
up or whatever.
expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, my mom was like, "I just thought that was stupid." Neil said the same thing. It was funny. But it was interesting watching it in the context of all this
I believe
people.
as of today, Wednesday, the
Yeah,
conclave is
started
officially
today.
we're in business. Yeah.
Who's your pick, Randy? Who's got
I honestly I haven't
who's
even
got high
looked.
level traits?
I know. I should have had a scouting report ready. I saw where you could bet on it. I don't even know anybody. Who are the do you know who the top contenders are?
Yeah, let me kinda run you through some of these. We've got I don't think there's been an Italian pope in a minute, in a while. So, it seems like it is kinda like Conclave was kind of the liberal faction versus the highly, highly conservative faction. There's this Pietro Parolin, he's the Secretary of State under Francis. He's kind of, overseeing everything, but I think he's pretty progressive. But you got this guy Luis Antonio Gokim Tagle. He's a cardinal from the Philippines. I'm a big fan of. I don't know. We've got a lot of Filipino, kind of like first or second generation Filipino people who live in Jacksonville Beach, go to where we go to church and all of that. Wonderful people. I think that would be like there hasn't been a pope from Southeast Asia before, and that seems like one of the
Yeah.
fastest growing spots. You've got Cardinal Mbongo from the Congo.
Hey,
He
listen, I would be up for either an Asian or an African pope. Like, let's make some history.
yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, reading through all this stuff, it seems like the movie kind of nailed, like, they almost based some of these characters off of, like, current day characters, because this guy's very kind of like, he's from Africa, but he's very, very conservative, kind of that faction. There's this Anders Arborelius from Stockholm. He's a Swede. He converted to Catholicism late.
Mm,
Sweden would be interesting. Very Lutheran country. There's a French guy. This is kind of the New York Times thing. I'm told too. I've got some sources. I'm told that it's going to be a fast conclave. Like they're
Okay.
not going to dilly dally. They should be done by Friday, Randy. So
That is interesting. I'm just the article I'm reading, sorry, I'm looking at the ages, and I think all of them are late 60s to early 80s, except for one guy that's 60 years old. And I only think that would be interesting. Like, can you imagine having a pope for the next 25 years or something? That would be interesting. Pier
yeah,
Battista Pizzaballa from Italy. I promise I'm not making up that name. His real name is Pizzaballa. Maybe he should
might
be the
be.
United States men's
I
national
was
team
gonna
coach.
say. I saw DT just appointed your guy. Was it Steven Giuliani to or
Andrew.
Andrew Giuliani to look
Yeah,
after the whole World Cup thing and all of that, and then you
yeah.
got all sorts of criticism being lobbied towards the current coach, Coach Parm. Uh,
He's a former professional golfer. Did you know that? Giuliani's kid, this Andrew
yeah, he went to
Giuliani?
Duke.
Interesting. He must have played at Duke?
Yeah, yeah, I think he played at
Huh.
Duke. So, all right, so Pietro Parolin he's what currently 12-5. The Filipino guy Hagel's 11-4. Matteo Zuppi 4-1. Peter Turkson 5-1. Your guy Pizza Bala 6-1. Peter Erdo 8-1. Roberto Serra 14-1, and then the field is 16-1.
Okay.
So,
I might have to get down on that later today.
you should have put
Uh,
that in one of your FanDuel
the
plays.
maybe on our happy hour this week,
Like
we could
parlaying the Myrtle Beach Classic winner with with the
with the
Pope,
boat.
or at least like a
Uh,
top. I wonder if they offer top 3 odds for a Pope. Like, yeah, you got
Dead
down to
heat.
like the
Yeah,
final ballot or whatever.
yeah.
Let's thank Whoop real quick.
Hold on,
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
one quick thing to say about this Andrew Giuliani guy. On his Wikipedia, he was recruited to Duke, yada yada. In February of 2008, while Giuliani was a junior, he was cut from the team for breaches of discipline, which he said were minor or fabricated infractions. And although Giuliani was already cut from the team, the coach agreed to reinstate him if the rest of the team voted for it. In April of that year, 5 of Giuliani's teammates sent him an email expressing a lack of interest in reinstating him. It's so sick. God,
Oh, yeah.
that's good. Anyway, that yeah. All right, sorry. Our friends
No.
at Whoop.
Yeah. Listen, you wanna talk about jet lag and Whoop? You wanna
Oh
see
my
your
god.
scores? It's tough,
It's tough.
tough.
Yeah, it's
But it's
some
also,
red.
it kinda tells you how to recover as well. We've all been wearing Whoop for a few years now. Fitness wearable, does so much more than activity tracking. It's, health goals, sleep, recovery, fitness related. Head to join.whoop.com/NLU. Get started with Whoop on a free 1-month trial. Includes hardware and a completely unlocked app experience. If you don't love it, you can send it back, no questions asked. And if you already have a Whoop, join our Whoop group, com-NLU. And again, I'm stacking up about 6 days in a row of like really, really poor sleep. I think my recovery levels, like it's kind of like when you do a lot of strain a bunch of days in a row, it gets tougher
Yeah.
to stack them up. I think I'm in such a poor point with my recoveries that like there's a lot of low hanging fruit there that I can get it up in the
Yeah.
90s pretty easily just with a good night's sleep tonight.
I had a
So,
breakthrough this morning. Today's been the first one where I'm like, my recovery shot up, which was nice. Oh, always coming back to Denver at altitude, I get rocked
yeah.
on my recoveries.
Yeah, especially if I think there is a difference if you're on one of the 777s versus a 787 or a A350. Like that more no, there's the 350s and the 87s have like so much more humidity. So
Oh,
you don't get as
really?
dried out. Oh yeah, it's like a
Huh.
big thing. Yeah. So it's a like I always sleep better on those.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had Solly and I both had 6:15 flights out of Pittsburgh this morning. He connected in Charlotte. I was through Dulles. Randy, I had to, I was supposed to go through Newark. I scratched that. Wanted no part of it.
No, can you explain what has gone on or what that deal
Yeah,
is?
it's
'Cause I
it's
feel
a
like I missed it a
disaster.
little bit.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
getting, I was talking to Wind Talker the other day. He said it's just, just basically what they did a few years ago was they tried to like they had a ATC thing out in on Long Island, and they moved the Newark one down to Philly, and they moved a lot of people like not voluntarily, but on a
okay.
on a 2-year cycle. Well, that 2-year cycle is coming up. A lot of them have claimed, have said, "Hey, this is really like things have gotten so stressful." They've taken either near misses or that sort of thing. You can take a leave of absence for I think 30 to 45 days. So many of them have done that. They were short staffed to begin with. There's no new trainees coming in either. So just an unmitigated disaster up at Newark. I think United's gonna have to cancel a lot more regular flights up there. I think they canceled 30
Mm,
already. They're probably gonna have to go to 50 or 60 a day to lessen it, which is crazy because summer travel season's coming up. That's where a lot of their international, their
yeah,
European flights
exactly.
leave from. So not good. Not good, Randy.
No.
Um, there was another close call at DCA the other day, I guess, with the
2
helicopter.
yeah, 2 flights had to kind of abort their landing because of close proximity with helicopters again.
Yeah. I
Scary,
saw
man.
Australia's poaching some of our air traffic controllers as well, promising quality of life down there and all of that.
I would read some literature if I
Yeah,
were an air
for
traffic
sure.
controller.
For sure. Let's see here. Oh, I guess also the FAA is giving bonuses to the new hires and eligible to retire folks, but not to the people who are actually working. So, just, crazy there.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Yeah, Randy, big news in my world. I bought a Norfolk Island pine.
TC, when this broke across my desk, courtesy of DJ, on the Slack thread, truly it shocked me in such a fun way. Please tell me all about it. This is the best tree there is. I believe our favorite tree. I'm so happy that you've undergone this journey.
Yeah, I still don't know where I'm gonna plant it. It's sitting in a in a little pot outside my office right now,
How
but
big is it right now?
it's probably I'll take a picture of it. It's probably 2 feet tall,
Okay.
2.5 feet tall. These things grow really, really fast, really very, very quickly. They kind of take over. My wife is livid with me, and she's like, "We're gonna have to move some other trees." Our lime tree is absolutely there's probably 60 buds on it right now for future limes.
Too many?
Uh,
Like, you probably don't know what to do with that many
we're
limes.
gonna be making so many margaritas. It's gonna be
Oh,
crazy. Our mint is
wonderful.
going nuts. We got cucumbers going, tomatoes. It's been a very, very fruitful spring here at the Carter Schuster household.
God, you need to
Um,
start taking some of those to like a farmer's market. Get in
just
that
set
game.
up a stand.
Yeah, set up a little stall.
Yeah, our neighbors I think they have watermelons over there. They got all sorts of stuff going on over there. Our neighbors across the street, they got a tangerine tree that's absolutely popping off right now. So, all sorts
That'd
of
be a
stuff
fun tree.
going on
Yeah.
that front. But yeah, the Norfolk Island pine, I'm struggling on where to put it. My dad was like he wants one, but he's also like, where are you going to put it? It's going to take over your yard. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, like if it grows too fast and it gets out of control, like I can always cut it down, like plant a new one, you know? I mean,
I
I
mean,
feel like
yeah,
we're
you
probably like
could.
6 to 8 years away from it even, I guess they can get up over 100 feet tall, but I don't think like that's 25, 30 years down the line, you know? I'll be
I
68
was gonna
years old at
say,
that
maybe
69 years old
probably
at that
not
point.
your problem at that point.
Exactly, exactly. So, and it'd be something gorgeous that people could enjoy the house with. So,
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted on where it goes. Bought some more lavender. Been deep in the lavender game of late. just kind of, yeah, we've been tinkering with the yard a little bit. So
Good for
it's been
you.
nice. And then yeah,
Did
we
you
got yeah.
was the Norfolk Island pine heavily tariffed coming
Well,
did you get it from
yeah,
Norfolk Island?
that was the other consideration. I think they it's like over 100% tariffs from
Yeah, I
Norfolk
believe so.
Island.
Yeah.
Felt overly punitive, just out of whack. I don't know how much trade we're doing with Norfolk Island.
I don't either. I don't either.
Maybe the pines are maybe we're importing so many pines from Norfolk Island that there's a
We're out of
trade
balance.
imbalance there.
Yeah,
There's
we
not
gotta
enough
send
people
them.
down there to buy our stuff.
We gotta send them some oaks and sycamores and whatever else.
But no, it was just sitting there. It was sitting there at the local Ace Hardware. Looked very healthy, and it was a sign, Randy. I've never
Yeah.
never seen one there. Sometimes people use them as house plants, but I told him, I'm like, "No, I'm planting this thing outside, and we're gonna let it rip."
Well, hopefully you saw some down in New Zealand. They're pretty
I did,
prevalent down in that.
did.
Yeah. They're always
Yeah,
God, they just yeah. They're always a
majestic.
sight for welcome eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or a welcome sight for
Uh,
weary eyes.
Randy, we got 2 Super Bowls this weekend, flag football. Freddie's team won in triple overtime last week.
Massive. Now we're back in the Super Bowl, right? Didn't we suffer a tough
He's
defeat in
lost
last
he's
year's
lost
Super Bowl?
5 Super Bowls in a row. Or sorry, 4 out of the last 5. He got eliminated before. But yeah, he's
Like there's
really proud of
essentially the
him.
Buffalo Bills.
They got called at the end of the first overtime, they got called for like a pick play or like an illegal downfield block after a completion, but they got right back in there, and it was awesome. He played a great game, and yeah, so then Gustav's team, they're in the Super Bowl as well. So if Gustav wins the Super Bowl and Freddie
Oh,
doesn't, it's gonna be
that's gonna be
disastrous.
tough in the house. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. We got Alcatraz potentially opening back up. Any
Ye
comment there?
well, I'm a little torn. This is like DT. DT stumbles on some, like, sick ideas. But I will say as somebody that loves the Alcatraz tour and has been on it multiple times, it kinda sucks to take that away from the people. Like, that's one of the best things anybody can do in San Francisco. So,
Alcatraz is
I don't
sick,
know. Yeah, it legitimately sick.
but I also,
I
it sends a message. Deterrence, right?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather lock them up in Alcatraz than deport people to other countries, that's for damn sure.
What else we got? Randy, you sent over an article about loved ones, or people losing family members and loved ones to this AI chatbots,
This
espousing
was a Rolling
spiritual
Stone listen,
prophecies.
I just want people to keep their eyes open. Rolling Stone had an article on May 4th about people, yeah, losing loved ones to AI-fueled spiritual fantasies. It's just that's bleak, TC. I can't imagine. Just I want people listening, just stay alert, stay vigilant. Don't let the loved ones in your life fall victim
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah, keep your head on a swivel out there. I think next time around we can talk about the Delco pooper. I think that
Okay.
that warrants
Yeah.
more discussion. I saw Harry wants to reconcile with the royal family. You're our
Mhm.
royalist
Of
correspondent.
course. Of course.
Pelosi Act, introduced by your guy Josh Hawley.
All
Uh,
for great title.
the
Should be
DOJ is on the verge of
bipartisan. Yeah.
breaking up Google. There was some FTC, DOJ antitrust stuff going on that your guy Jim Jordan was trying to slide it into some
Not
bills.
good. Not good.
You got all sorts of other stuff. Shannon Sharp being accused of some bad stuff. All sorts of stuff of that nature. And Solly was stunting. He was coming back from your Northern Ireland trip, and he said he saw Ludwig. First person he saw when he got off the plane, Ludwig was getting ready to get on the plane up to. He was going to go play a practice round up at Quail Hollow, and Solly was like,
Flying
"Yeah, he's
American.
flying
Yeah.
American." It's just, I'm sure, like, yeah, he's Swedish. He wants
Practical.
efficiency, right? He's
Yeah.
practical. I'm sure he didn't buy up to first class. I'm sure he was, probably row 15, row 16.
Yeah.
So brutal.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll
Well,
be back. We'll be back next week with your interview, your conversation with Christopher Clary. And
yep.
yeah, I feel like I'm kind of ragged. 4:30 wake up call this morning, Randy. So
No. Enjoyed catching up with you, TC. We'll leave some meat on the bone for the next chop session. And yeah, the tennis folks tune in next week. Should be a really good conversation. TC, until then, thank you for your service and thank you to everybody listening.
and good luck to your Reds, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you.